Yeah, the L-Tyrosine's in the pre. We have a ton of alpha GPC and smooth, which actually just doubled. So now it's 1,200 milligrams, which I don't think anybody else is doing.
So that's my favorite
I thought
combo.
it was 600, by the way. I didn't realize it's. I
Oh
haven't.
yeah,
I thought it was
now per 6 capsules, it's 1,200 milligrams of alpha GPC.
We have to discuss pre-workout. So we got questions about this. Was the question. DLMon says, what are some unusual pre-workout supplements for more strength or a better pump? PEDs and natural supplements included. First of all, and then he mentioned, there were a lot of comments. People mentioned oxytocin, intranasal insulin, kratom, taurine, alpha GPC, L-Tyrosine. Notice alpha GPC and L-Tyrosine are both in Derek's pre-workout, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. And
we have alpha GPC
and the Gorilla Mind.
Yeah, but I would, something that our marketing hasn't taken advantage of that we really should is advertising how much instant strength you can get out of adequate alpha GPC deployment. So not, a 300 milligram dose, but actually using a clinical 600 or potentially the Alzheimer's 1,200. I'm sure it would work fairly fucking well too. Concurrently with like nitric, if you wanted stimulant free, like acute strength outcomes, as well as obviously better pumps and whatnot. But yeah, like that product is separate because it also it's a nootropic on its own. But then if you wanted to get that kind of effect on top of the pre-workouts, you could stack it alongside it. But yeah, the L-Tyrosine's in the pre. We have a shit ton of alpha GPC and smooth, which actually just doubled. So now it's 1,200 milligrams, which I don't think anybody else is doing.
So that's my favorite
I thought
combo.
it was 600, by the way. I didn't realize it's. I haven't.
Yeah,
I thought it was
now per 6 capsules, it's 1,200 milligrams of alpha GPC.
Oh yeah,
Derek, you're gonna kill me.
No, so let's discuss. But Steve, these are something. Did you ever use intranasal insulin? You mentioned.
No, man.
I think you mentioned
inhalable insulin. I've looked into. I added it into the insulin ebook, but it's such a novel thing. Just injectable insulin works intramuscularly as well, but in most cases, pre-workout insulin will just cause you to go hypoglycemic unless you have really fundamental understanding of your blood glucose. And listen, there's cards like bodybuilding and pre-workout. It's like a card game, like you mentioned. You deal the right cards at the right time. You don't need to play the Joker card right at the beginning.
You don't need to store everything right before you go inside.
No, right. And so people about my pre-workout regimen is extensive, right? It's extensive. When I was training at maximum capacity, I got my Gorilla Mod Nitric and my Smooth and my Pico 2 and my glycerol and my sodium and my ubiquinol, right? And injectable ATP and all that stuff. It works for me, but I've been doing this for 20 years.
So the reason why I wanted to bring this up is what the hell are people doing taking Phenibut pre-workout? Phenibut is a GABA B agonist. GABA will weaken you. Take a Valium, go work out. If you're a strength athlete, you'll notice all your weights go down immediately after. You don't need to relax at the gym.
It's a public gym, bro.
In the comment section?
A lot of people, not just in our comment section, but I've heard it so many times. Phenibut is not for the gym, guys. Second thing, Kratom. I know you guys seem to think that opioid receptors are like negligible and just fuck them, whatever. If I ever break my leg one day or get cancer, I'll feel pain. It's okay. No, but and Kratom, I know it has adrenaline activities, sure. But you do not want to not feel pain when you're in the gym. Do you want to be one of those bodybuilders that don't have shoulders when you're 40? Because that's where you'll end up. All those guys that took painkillers. Look, I used to be an arm wrestler. All the arm wrestlers, we suffer with a lot of pain. A lot of guys take opioids. Those guys that take opioids get more injured over time because they don't feel the pain. You need to feel the pain to some degree, right?
A little bit of a feedback, yeah. Because otherwise you're just going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until it's bone on bone.
Exactly.
And a lot of guys have issues with that in their hips, in their shoulders, in their back,
And notice a lot of those guys were the guys that used to use that drug that Duchesne, that character, Nubane.
Yeah,
a lot of those guys don't have body parts now. So what would you use instead of Kratom if you are suffering from pain and you want to mess with your opioid receptors? We mentioned it last time, and I've been using it recently, and I've been trying to popularize it in arm wrestling. Naltrexone. Naltrexone is an opioid receptor antagonist. If you use a 50 milligram dose, what they give to heroin addicts or alcoholics, you'll block all the receptors. Now, if you do that, over a couple of months, your receptors will upregulate. But that's not really a sustainable thing because you'll feel more pain in the short term. What you can do instead is use what's called low-dose naltrexone therapy, which is 4.5 milligrams of naltrexone. That does two things. It reduces your C-reactive protein and inflammation in your body, which is great for your long-term health. And it does that in the brain also, which is why I'm using it. The second thing it does is it also upregulates those opioid receptors. So what happens? Remember endorphins? Many people don't know what the hell endorphins are. They're your opioid receptor agonists, the natural ones. So those things can actually hit those fresh opioid receptors that have been upregulated by naltrexone. Now, I'll be honest with you, 4.5 milligrams of naltrexone is not a life-changing thing, but it's something. It's if you want that incremental advantage, that's what I would go for. Something.
So do you notice that your post-workout, response is more increased to after the naltrexone?
I mainly noticed, no, the big workout thing I've had, honestly, was cerebral lysin. But the naltrexone, what I've noticed is a mood effect, which I think mainly is the inflammation reduction.
Okay.
It hasn't been so severe on the pain, to be honest with you, but it's all the research is positive on this thing.
I'll have a look into it. I'm sure I can source it here, so because I've pretty much exhausted all my pre-workout options already.
We need to end this kratom stuff, guys, because people are abusing it across the U.S. and people are promoting it like it's it's natural. Well, guess what, guys? Heroin is natural too. All of that stuff is natural. I mean, I don't know why people think like if it's natural, it's good for you. Kratom causes liver failure so much. I found so many case studies, when I was researching kratom, because I tried to understand the pharmacology 6 months ago or so. Liver failure throughout. So many people with withdrawals, so many people with dependency. I know it's not as bad as taking like heroin, obviously, but why would you put yourself in that position? It's not weed. It's not something simple.
What's weird is that a lot of people, they switch from opiates to kratom to get over the addiction, right? And now they're on kratom 24/7. So take the next logical step and get off. I know it's easier said than done, and addiction is something I don't understand because I've never been addicted besides the bodybuilding lifestyle. But it's a step-by-step process. If you want to use kratom to get over an addiction, then the next step would be to phase out the kratom.
The problem is this. Sometimes the addiction is not like physical pain. Sometimes that's what I really try to specialize in because I'm from a family of addicts. And the issue sometimes is I try to explain it like, I wear glasses. Imagine my glasses are cloudy. I'm looking through the world. It's always cloudy. Some people want to see the world right. When they take the kratom, they see the world right. But the thing is, the kratom is not sustainable because what many people don't realize, if you use any opioid, your opioid receptors downregulate. Over time, you will feel more pain. That's why heroin addicts have to keep upregulating their dose. It's not every drug like that. Opioid receptors really downregulate. So it's not sustainable. You have to find a different method. And to be honest, I was consulting with somebody recently who has some sexual dysfunction issues. And I've been consulting with him for a couple of months and giving him some advice. He never mentioned to me that he was using kratom. 2 months later, I find out randomly. I found out. He's like, by the way, bro, is the kratom bad? I was like, kratom is, listen, guys, in your hypothalamus, you have your gonadotropin releasing cells. They don't just have estrogen receptors for the negative feedback. They have mu opioid receptors. That is a direct shutdown. Everybody that takes opiates has fertility issues, testosterone issues, and sex drive issues. That's known.
Nothing has numbed my dick more than kratom. When I take that, literally impossible to get off.
Horrible. Well,
I've never taken it.
Well, some people use that as like a PED, but yeah.
Oh, for PE? For sex, I mean?
Yeah, so like guys who prematurely ejaculate, they're like, oh, I'll take kratom on top of like Cialis plus, what that's like their stack.
Fascinating. I never even knew about that.
It's like a lower, it's not as intense as Depoxetine, but it's like pretty intense to the point where you could like sex is not even enjoyable because you'll just never get off. You can't even like feel anything almost.
So let's talk about gynecomastia. We got a bunch of questions about this. Salo says, does raloxifene plus AI stop anadrol gyno? Oh, we should talk about that. Steve, you were mentioning earlier the anadrol gyno.